noon our time.
Thank you
Well,
for
3
doing
o'clock
this,
mine.
Jeff. I'm very excited about it.
Hey, it's an honor. It's an honor.
Hi, everyone.
Good morning.
So nice to see everybody. We have so many people. We have Heidi from Wisconsin, and we have, of course, Jeff and Gary and Kate from Massachusetts.
Hello.
Rocky and Rocky.
Nice to see you, Gary. I like that you have your dog with you.
Oh yeah, he's always around. It's Rocky.
Super cute. That's Rocky. Nice to meet you, Rocky. We have a bunch of other people joining us. Rebecca's just letting them into the waiting room. Hi, John.
Hey, birthday girl. How are you today?
I'm good.
Hello, everyone.
Happy birthday.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Weston. Weston, you're a USD football alumni player, right?
Weston Yon in the house.
I graduated in 2013. I was injured my last year, so I didn't play, but excuse me, I was part of the program for the first 4 years there.
Oh, awesome.
I've been getting old since.
Well, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm going to go ahead and get us started. People will join in as they're added in. I want to keep us on time today because we have a lot of ground to cover with Jeff. I'm just going to go over a few Zoom rules, which I'm sure many of you now that we're almost 70 days into this quarantine, many of you know this. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking. We will have time at the end for Q&A. We recommend speaker view for the presentation. And of course, we love to see your face, but sharing your video is optional for you. There's a chat button at the bottom. If you don't know that, you can type in all of your questions and comments into the chat during Jeff's presentation. And really quickly, I just want to give you guys an overview of what Autism Tree has been up to over the last couple months since shelter in place went into effect. If you didn't know, we just had our Giving Tuesday Now telethon, and it was a great day of giving, and we exceeded every expectation of what we were going to be able to raise that day. We actually raised over $15,000, $15,225, with 89 donors, an average donation of 171. And I have to give a big shout out and thank you to the Snyder family who's with us today, because they gave us a $500 matching grant that we were able to use as a match and raise over $15,000. We had an incredible success with matches on Giving Tuesday. We actually had 6 different matches in effect, and we didn't know they were going to do a match until that morning. So thank you so much, you guys. If you guys haven't been able to donate and you want to, any amount, we're going to be sending a follow-up email to this webinar today, and you guys can donate there. Sorry, hang on one second. I have a toddler.
Hi, Brecken.
Okay, so I also wanted to go over what we've been up to at Autism Tree. Over the last 63 days, we have been able to reach over 170,000 people through our social media channels, which has been really incredible. We've been doing that mainly through the video content that we've been creating. So on March 10th, we sent out our first video, and that very first video was Dana in IKEA with a clock right when we knew the schools were going to close, but they hadn't been announced yet. And our families were starting to panic at the idea of quarantine, shelter in place, being at home with your kids, and working full time. It was totally overwhelming, as many of you know. And since then, we've posted 76 videos on our page, which is incredible. Thank you to all of you who have posted a video. If you haven't done one yet and you still want to, please reach out to Rebecca and I, and we can make that happen. And since then, we've been able to really quickly convert. We have 20 different programs and services that are free for kids and families. We've converted 17 of those programs and services to now be virtual during this time of quarantine and shelter in place, which has been really, really incredible. We've been very fortunate to kind of be able to think outside of the box and figure out how we're able to do that and still serve our community of thousands of kids and families. So that being said, we've actually offered 33 virtual programs since the end of March, and we have 11 more coming up between today and the end of May. So if there's something that you want to plug into or want to plug your kid into that you haven't done yet, please reach out to me and Rebecca. We can get you guys hooked up. Right now, I'm going to pass it over to Dana, and she's going to give a quick introduction and welcome and introduce Jeff, our special guest today.
Hi, ATPF family. I'm really excited for us to try wishing Lisa Kaufman, whose actual birthday is today. I haven't experienced doing a birthday party or birthday wishes on Zoom. So Rebecca, I think, is going to unmute everybody so we can sing happy birthday.
Yes, everybody unmute themselves and I'll start off the count off. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy
birthday
to
you.
Happy
Happy
birthday,
birthday, dear
Lisa.
Lisa. Happy birthday to you.
I don't know about anyone else. That was my first birthday Zoom. Happy birthday, Lisa.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Big love to all of you for making time in your busy schedules and being here. I feel like this is really, to me, a little bit groundbreaking to have Jeff doing this. For any of you that were at our 5th Neuroscience Conference last year, it, in my opinion, was the best one because of our panel, and Jeff flew in from Massachusetts to be on the panel, and I just think he added so much perspective on how he has become an advocate for others. He has autism and he's an advocate for others, and I think that we can all learn so much from him. And I want Jeff to know that I've been kind of carrying around a quote, and I mentioned it last time on our last Lunch and Learn, but I think I just need to read it because when I try to just do it from memory, I botch it. It says, you'll either be a voice that someone must overcome, or you'll be a voice that helps someone overcome. And I'm personally, I think with everyone just being in shelter in place for, over 60 days now, I'm just really drawn to us thinking about the words that we're using, the voice that we are in the heads of the loved ones around us, let alone other people that are important to us in our life. If you take a moment and you think about it, when you're in a dark place or you need to really endure and overcome, whose voice do you hear? And how very, very important that is. We all have an internal voices, and I just think it's so important that the voices that we use, the words that we choose, are going to be ones that help our loved ones overcome things, and they won't be words that are going to be an obstacle for people we love. And so I'm just really encouraged to keep bringing it up. How important the impact that we have every day. Every day we have this opportunity to encourage each other and to help the loved ones and children in our lives grow. And I'm very, very thankful. There's no exaggeration that our ability to do that right now has exceeded my imagination. And it's really a wonderful thing to share that quote and then introduce Jeff Snyder. Because though I haven't spent a lot of one-on-one time with Jeff, he's on the East Coast in Massachusetts, when I think of him, or when we are on Zoom together, or he was on the panel at the Neuroscience Conference, he is a light. No matter what he's talking about, I can feel his warmth, I can feel his sincerity. He's always, on all the Lunch and Learns we've done so far, he's always typing in and adding to the conversation. And when I say that, I mean it kind of in a 3D way, because when he's adding to the conversation, I think we're all feeling his sincerity and intensity. And I'm seeing him add more and more ATPF team and family members to his advocacy that he does on Facebook and other social media. And I just personally am very, very grateful for Jeff Snyder, particularly during this time when I'd never even done Zoom before. And I count Jeff Snyder as a blessing extra on the Zoom call, because normally he wouldn't be at something because he's in Massachusetts. So that's a big benefit of Zoom, is that I get to experience and interact with him more. And I'm honored and grateful to introduce Jeff today at this Lunch and Learn. And I hope that when things get back to normal, that we're going to be excited about our next neuroscience conference. And Jeff was already helping us with our 1,000-person luncheon, which I'm not sure what will move towards that, but we're definitely going to do something to celebrate our Sweet 16. And I certainly know Jeff's always motivated to keep helping Autism Tree. So Jeff, I want to thank you for all that you do, and for the time that you give the foundation, and really the love that I feel you give the foundation. It just means so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dana. So for those of you who probably don't know me, who weren't at the neuroscience conference or anything like that, my name is Jeff Snyder. I am a autism self-advocate. I'm based here in Massachusetts, near Providence, Rhode Island, and south of Boston. And today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about, who I am, what I do, and how I can offer my my advice and guidance throughout this COVID-19 pandemic. So I wanted to share with you guys, these are my credentials and awards. I was a member of the class of 2000 at Mildred H. Aiken Elementary School. I received a United States Presidential Award from President Bill Clinton. I am also a member of the class of 2003 for Dr. Kevin M. Hurley Middle School. Back then it was known as Seekonk Middle School. And then I'm a member of the class of 2007 for Seekonk High School. I have a diploma, I have a Principal's Leadership Award, and I have a Student Leadership Award. Rebecca, if you could just move the next slide, please. So I told you a little bit about myself. I'm a native of Seekonk, Massachusetts. I was diagnosed with autism at 21 months old, which was about late 1990, early 1991. My special interests are advocating for autism, traveling, which unfortunately I haven't been able to do because of this coronavirus pandemic. I do a lot of writing. I am a fan fiction author. Fan fiction is basically stories based on movies, books, TV shows, anything of media. And when I graduated from Seekonk High School in 2007, I was the first student with autism to go through my town's public school system. And for the past, and for 5 years now, I've been living in my own apartment since 2015. Next slide, please. So you might be wondering how and why I became an advocate for autism. Well, I became an advocate for autism because I want to mentor families who have an autistic child or an autistic, relative, just from someone who has been through the process, just life in general, or I want to just, life in general, what life is like, living on the spectrum. And then, there's also the matter of, life in school. When I was in school, I was on an IEP throughout my entire career. And then, of course, there's a matter of life in the workplace, because there have been people with autism that tend to struggle in the workplace. I mean, I know when I first got my first paying job, it was a bit of a transition. And then since November, I've been doing a weekly video series, which is kind of on hiatus right now due to the COVID-19 pandemic and how it's affected, creativity in a way. I'm covering various topics related to autism, and at the end of the presentation, you will see, I have a link to my video profile on YouTube. So all my life, I've been gifted as a public speaker, even though I would like to do more public speaking engagements than I do now. Among my examples as a speaker, since I graduated from high school, I do a scholarship every year at my alma mater, Seekonk High School, where I present a scholarship to a graduating senior who's been on an IEP. And for those of you who don't know who IEP is, that means individual educational plans throughout his or her education process, and it is given a scholarship in recognition of their achievements. And since I've been doing the scholarship since 2008, so this will be our 12th year. I think it's 12 or 13. I think it's our 12th year, 12th annual scholarship this year. We would always present a plaque, and then usually it would be about $500 would go towards the students, recipients' college education their first year. We started out at doing 2 $500, and then we did 1,000. We started out with 1,000, and then we moved on to just doing one $500 scholarship for budgetary reasons. So Rebecca, if you could just go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So I think you're all wondering, how am I coping with COVID-19? Well, it's not really surprising, but like a lot of people on the spectrum, I've been trying to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic in a number of ways. One thing that I have been doing to cope with the pandemic is to focus more on my writings. For the past couple of months, ever since the cartoon My Little Pony Friendship is Magic ended back in October, I've been continuing the series in a way with a season 10 and season 10 project that went from October to March, this past March, and I'm currently working on season 11 of MLP, and then I do a lot of fanfics based on Scooby. Most of my fanfics are based on My Little Pony and Disney. So I mean, I'll do a lot of fanfics based on Disney properties, and I'm currently working on, I actually just started working on a Scooby-Doo, a crossover fic between Scooby-Doo and Silence of the Lambs, if you can believe that. So that project's been going. Hopefully that project for me is going to be the first of a series of fanfics that I'm thinking about doing over the next couple of months. Rebecca, if you could just move to the next slide. So what are some of the challenges related to COVID-19 for those on the spectrum? Well, let's be honest here. Routines. There have been I don't care if it's autism or neurotypical, but routines have been disrupted. And you know how for people on the spectrum, they crave routines. I mean, I crave routines. And thanks to this pandemic, I've been able to do the things that I normally do. I mean, sometimes I'll go to Starbucks. I have a Starbucks that's just down the road from my apartment, and I'll do my fanfic writing. I can't do that. I mean, it's very frustrating. As a matter of fact, one of my biggest passions, and part of the large reason why I got into how I became a member of the ATPF family is I like to travel. I mean, I've been traveling to Brony conventions, and for those of you who don't know, Bronies are fans of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. I mean, I go into more detail about that, but that's probably for another time. And I would travel to three to four of these conventions, and when it was announced that the show was ending, I decided to switch over to doing autism conferences. Last year, I attended the Milestones Autism Conference in Cleveland, and I met the famous Haley Moss, who's of course the woman with autism from Florida who graduated from law school. So I had the opportunity to meet with her, and then of course I came out here, and that's how I became a part of the ATPF family, was through my traveling. And because of the pandemic, I can't do my traveling. So that's one thing that really sucks for me. But anyway, and then the other thing is the change in environment. There have been, ever since this whole pandemic started, there has been a lot of families, that people on the spectrum, that have to cope with changes in environment, like particularly for those who are pre-K or in elementary school. They can't understand the changes in routine. Like, all of a sudden they're used to seeing people like walking around, being close together. And all of a sudden they're seeing people wearing masks, and they'll be scared. And, they want to go to the park, and of course we can't go to the park because it's roped off because of, again, quote, social distancing. But I think the fact of the matter is that it's important to tell the child or your loved one who's on the spectrum that these things are only temporary. We're going to get back to normal. But for some, they can't handle that. And I mean, they'll want to go to there's been a time where, they want to go to Walt Disney World. They can't go to Disney World because if you fly, you have to self-quarantine for 14 days. So the changes in environment are going to be are obviously a big one. I mean, there are times, and the changes in environment, they're not just for people think, oh, it's because of me. It's not. This is a global virus. This is a pandemic. And we're doing this not just to protect ourselves, but the people around you. And essentially, it's important to say, for the change in, this is a temporary change in environment because we're doing this to protect those who are vulnerable to something like COVID-19, or, whether it's, people of the elderly, or the people who are elderly, who have underlying medical conditions. I mean, trust me, I've, all three of my grandparents, God rest their souls, they lived long, healthy lives. And as a matter of fact, my paternal grandmother passed away 1 year ago Monday of natural causes. I mean, nothing would have hurt me more than seeing her die from COVID-19. And I have a sister who lives in Virginia and is in the medical field. She's a OBGYN. She's got a soon-to-be 3-year-old daughter, and then she has another one that's going to be coming out in a few weeks. So, I mean, we have to do these. We have to make these changes in environment because of people like them. We're not doing this. We don't do this for ourselves. We have to do it for other people. And so that's the big change in environment. And again, will plants be disrupted? Absolutely. And when plants are disrupted, we have to take things with a grain of salt. We can always reschedule, but we can't. But everything that's happening is temporary. Just keep that in mind. Things are going to get back to normal, but for the time being, things are going to be a little topsy-turvy. So if you could just move on to the next slide. So in case if you guys are ever interested, you can find me for my advocacy. I am, so as you can read here's my email address. I'm twilightsparkle3562@gmail.com. I run a self-advocate page on Facebook. And I also run a private, recently private, Autism Self-Advocacy group. I currently have so far I have close to 1,300 people liking my self-advocate page, and I right now have over 350 people on my self-advocacy page on Facebook, and then I am on LinkedIn, and I'm pretty sure some of you in this meeting are either friends with me or who like my self-advocate page and are members of my group. I'm also on LinkedIn, and then I, which I currently have over nearly 1,400 connections on LinkedIn, and then on YouTube. YouTube, I currently, unfortunately, it's a little lower than I normally have, but I currently have four subscribers. So if you guys have a YouTube account, feel free to subscribe. And then for my writing profiles, I'm on fanfiction.net, which is my main multi-genres. That's where most of my writings are. And then for FemFiction, is strictly My Little Pony. It's strictly My Little Pony. Friendship is Magic, and I've been writing on fanfiction.net. I really started in 2004, but I started writing full-time in 2012. And then FemFiction I've been using since 2013. DeviantArt, and then my third profile is on DeviantArt. Which is basically the same thing. I put my writings on, and DeviantArt's where people, put their drawings and written works or various other forms of art. So that's where I have all my writings, and I'm pretty sure that's all you guys need to know. So I will turn things back over to Dana or Lisa or whatnot.
Thank you, Jeff. So we're going to open it up now for question and answer for Jeff. And I just had 3 questions for Jeff that we discussed ahead of time. So my first question, Jeff, is how do you feel you're able to be an example to the ASD community during this time of quarantine?
Well, I can try to be an example, like I can offer advice to families of those on the spectrum who are having a very difficult time with dealing with COVID-19 and all that sort of stuff. And because I try to lead to the best of my ability, and during this time there will be families whose kids are struggling and can't do who can't live their normal lives the way that they're supposed to. So it's little things like that. The one thing I can say is we have to support one another during this difficult time. And as for me, I can offer the only advice I can give is to just try to modify the routines the way they are normally run, but with modifications. And like I said, they're only temporary modifications.
Thank you, Jeff. So the second question I have is, can you share any feedback you've heard from other adults in the ASD community about how they're coping during COVID-19?
Well, it's, I mean, I can be perfectly, if I can be perfectly honest with the COVID-19, with, I mean, like, you know, a lot of like high profile people in the community, like I know Haley Moss, Rachel Barcelona, all those people, they do a lot of Zoom meetings so they can stay connected with their audience in a way. So
So that's good. I mean, it's interesting because for many of us, I can't speak for everyone, but for many of us, I feel like we're kind of exhausted by all this virtual interfacing. But for a lot of our community, I mean, like I said earlier, we're offering 17 of our 20 programs now virtual, and we're getting incredibly great feedback from our kids and families who are participating in all of those virtual programs. The kids definitely do feel like they're staying connected. They definitely do feel like they are able to communicate and get their story heard. Even like with our typers group, that's our group of non-speaking nonverbal kiddos. They definitely are loving the virtual platform. So that's interesting that you share that.
yeah.
And then the last question I have for you, Jeff, and then I'll open it up to all you guys. Do you have any advice for parents taking care of younger children during this time? Like any tips or tricks about what they should be doing? I mean, I know that you shared earlier about, I have a 2.5-year-old, that's a great example of kids not being able to go to the park and suddenly seeing people with masks, not understanding what that means. Like my son does not at all understand social distancing. Like when we do get to go out and we go for a hike or to the beach and he sees other children, he's running to them to play with them because he's like starving for that social interaction and we're having to pull him away. So, he doesn't understand that concept at all. Definitely someone older, like, Rich's son or Gail's son who's on this call or Alex's boys, they're going to be able to comprehend that better. But for our littler kids, they're not. So do you have any advice for people with younger kiddos?
Well, the one piece of advice I would give is to take them for like walks around the neighborhood. Like sometimes I'll walk around my complex. About I'll go for like I'll put on the iPod and go walk around the complex. But I think for families, maybe just take them outside. Go in the backyard or go in the front yard. Just kind of walk around. If you go out for like 1 hour for one day, that's plenty of exercise for for young kids and stuff. But it's important, I think, to explain to them in a very, very calm way why we can't go to the park or why can't we go visit our friends. So it's important to, I think, we have a rule as a writer is show, don't tell. It's important to show the child that why we can't do these things.
Mm-hmm.
And just I think it was like last week they CNN did a town hall with Sesame Street characters. And visualize with it's important to include visualization with what the coronavirus is, why we have to wear masks, and it's like Elmo said, why are we wearing masks? It's not Halloween. And it's more important to show the child and not tell them. I mean, but do it in a way that's not going to scare them. So
that's really great advice. If we can find that link, Rebecca, we'll send it in the follow-up email to the town hall with Sesame Street, because I hadn't even seen that, and I have a toddler, so I'd love to share that with him. We have a question here in the chat from Weston. Wave your hand, Weston. Weston's one of our USD football alumni players. He says, hey guys, I have a question for Jeff and the group. Are you familiar or aware of the concept of grounding or earthing conductivity that is unresearched but shown to help with inflammation, and in more recent studies, positive effects on those with autism? Thank you for your story, Jeff. You're an inspiration. Jeff, do you have any feedback on that? Have you heard of that before, grounding or earthing?
Grounding, I mean, I would like ground, like grounding is like sticking to something that will get you through these, certain times.
Yeah, and Jeff, so I'll give you a quick example. I came across a documentary a couple weeks ago. And it's a free documentary online. I'll distribute it to everyone. And there was a story about an autistic child that was had a pretty severe on the end of the spectrum that wouldn't be able to sit still for longer than 10 seconds, as her teacher would explain. And they put him on what was called a grounding mat. And what grounding, earthing means is simply putting your feet on the earth. On concrete also works. Asphalt doesn't work. Give you another example. My foot is plugged in right now to my wall outlet, or it was, and you plug it in and you're grounded. And there's 21 medical studies that have shown to reduce inflammation through this and increase athletic performance. And then I also, when I came across the tidbit and the information and how it was helpful for a child with autism who wasn't able to sit still for longer than 10 seconds, they put him on a conductive mat, and he sat there and stayed patient for 20 minutes. So I was just curious, I know it's under research, but if you guys have been aware or, had any studies, they make bed sheets for this as well, that my father's fiance with fibromyalgia put on her bed sheet, and she claims over 10 years of having pain, this is the only thing that's helped her with her pain and reducing her inflammation. So just wanted to throw that out there and see if any of the parents or family or Jeff had ever come across something like that.
Yeah, John just shared a link in the chat saying that there's a website that's informative about grounding and balance. We as humans need to stay connected to the earth. And Lawson Johnson said it feels really strong when we go to the beach. I mean, I can definitely just say and Dana could share, I'm sure too, after Dana's been running Autism Tree for 16 years and we've served thousands of families. A lot of our programs actually, Wes, are based on being outside in the earth. Yeah. So we have like a food farming program. We have like a Bridge to the Beach program at the beach and at the bay. And even the stuff that we do with the football players and the baseball players at USD, a lot of that can be incorporated into the kinds of therapies that our kids are currently getting or have received before, like occupational therapy, RDI, many of those things where, my son goes to OT, and in OT, what are they doing? They're doing a lot of obstacle courses. He's crawling, running, jumping, he's on the ground, he's swinging on a swing. So a lot of it has to do with just grounding him and helping to regulate all of those senses. Jeff, did you have any experience of that as a kid, like going through different kinds of therapy because you were diagnosed so young? I mean, Gary can probably remember, your dad is on the call here. Gary, if you wanted to share any of that.
I would probably share it with, I would let them, talk more about it. So.
Okay.
Yeah, Jeff, sensory integration therapy was coming out in the early 90s. And basically a lot of these little guys or gals, their nervous system is out of calibration. So they might be hypersensitive to touch, or, someone, putting a sweater on with a tag on the back feels like a knife being stuck. So the occupational therapy of sensory integration therapy is really about trying to calibrate the nervous system. And thinking about grounding, I mean, way back when, Temple Grandin, she was so uncomfortable, she actually built a cocoon to push herself in to get that direct pressure. So the combination of these evolution of these therapies, and now it sounds like we're applying electricity to it, which is cool, and we're all part of the universe. So being outside and being a part of it makes a lot of sense. But sensory integration therapy for Jeff actually helped with his speech. He was
Mm,
totally uncalibrated. He'd offer a gag response to shaving cream, and just swinging and spinning, and some of the things they do in schools with the sand and the gels and stuff like that. All of that help basically recalibrate the nervous system, which is a little bit out of whack. Worked for
mhm.
Jeff.
Yeah, that's super helpful, Gary. I mean, Dana, I don't know if you want to share anything since,
Yeah.
yeah, you went through
Um,
this with Garrett too, I'm sure.
yeah, well, I was just thinking about personally, earthing to me is the most I experienced it personally is with Andreas Amador. He's one of the only earthscape artists in the world, and he's really about actually taking off your shoes and purposely connecting to the earth, and not just for 10 minutes, but for like the whole Torrey Pines. So I worked with him when I felt actually stuck when both my parents died within 6 months. I came across him, and I did my research. I looked at other earthscape artists too, and I was only drawn to Andreas Amador. And so it was definitely a process. He also is the reason I do honestly write 5 things I'm grateful for every single day because of Andreas. It was a whole process. Um, so when I personally think of earthing, I think of the earthscape artist Andreas Amador, but I do think that Andreas would find the things that is it Sam that was mentioning this from USD?
Oh, Wes.
Wes, sorry, Wes. But if you Google Andreas Amador, he's actually literally into earthscaping. He does art, and a number of people on this Zoom right now have experienced meeting Andreas. If you have anything else to add, but I actually think personally he helped me recalibrate and not be stuck. Sometimes things in your life overwhelm you and you get stuck. And I think that your dad was kind of saying how it helped you, the therapy that you did. And I believe when Garrett was little, we did use a lot of, with therapists, sand and beans. Like we had big bins when he was a toddler, like Brecken's age. And we would hide his toys in it, and then he would have to find them, and we put him in it to play as well as like a sensory thing. And the weighted blankets, and I think what your dad was talking about too with the squeeze machine that Temple Grandeur built. All these things are really interesting, and is what can we do with our nervous systems when we know they're not balanced, whether we're seeing it in our child or even ourselves. I guess one of the biggest things that I remember as being Garrett's mom is I started realizing when he's completely out of whack, I have to look at myself in the mirror and go, hey, okay, now look at yourself. We as parents have to be calm. We as parents have to be focused. And if we're not, our child will not be. They are a reflection on some level, is what I experienced as a mother. And I feel like, we feel that in our homes as parents. That's why I brought that quote up, is like, we set the tone. And I think this earthing and grounding is really an important concept right now that we're shelter in place. How important it is that we are grounding our environment and getting our feet on the ground in any way that we possibly can, especially if we're not feeling balanced. We might have to plug in like Wes was just showing us. So thank you for that.
Yeah, so we
seen
have
that
about
before.
1 minute left. I'm going to wrap it up, and then if anybody has questions for Jeff they didn't get to ask, we'll send it up in the follow-up email, Jeff's email. But John Hickey, I know you wanted to make a little comment. John,
Yep.
do you want to say something?
Back when I was studying massage therapy and we did a session on grounding, I was like, really? My background was as a lighting technician, so I was familiar with electricity and grounding. Then when we did the class and they talked about how our nervous system and our brain waves are all electrical impulses and how important it is that you ground your body physically. And we went out to the beach, and salt water is a great conductor of electricity, and just being able to go out and you could really feel it. That's why I mentioned that Lawson really felt it when we go to the beach. He's like, wow, it's like a tingling almost, and it slows him down and just helps him to zone. And now that we're home together, he's helping me in the garden a lot, and he said he loves it when he gets to go out and get his hands in the dirt and literally get grounded with the earth. So the link that I sent out, it actually has a lot of the principles of it if you've never looked into grounding. So and it's also, you mentioned the football and baseball mentor programs. When the kids get to go down in the field after the games, Lisa can relate to this because Brecken's got to do it a few times. And Weston, I'm sure, has some great memories of when the kiddos got to come down in the field after the game. That's the whole thing of getting the kids onto the grass and the dirt and letting them run around is what I think attracts and has such great feedback from a lot of the families in our program. So let's keep doing it. I can't wait till we get back to doing that.
Yeah, we miss it. And I think it's a great, what Jeff said about getting your kids out at least for an hour every day. I know a majority of the parents are already doing that, but, Wes, thanks for the excellent question, because I think it's a good reminder for all of us during this time, now more than ever, how important it is to be in the earth as adult humans and with our children in any way that we possibly can. Well, I'm going to wrap it up, you guys. We're a minute over. I just want to say thank you so much to Jeff Snyder, all the way from Massachusetts today, for sharing a little bit of your story with us, Jeff. And we're going to send a follow-up email with Jeff's direct email. If you had a question you didn't get a chance to ask Jeff today, please reach out to him. And he has an awesome self-advocacy group that I am a member of, Dana's a member of, John Hickey's a member of on Facebook. So if you want to be part of that community that Jeff's building, it's wonderful. Thank you all for a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
Sending out a
Take care,
follow-up
guys.
email. Have a beautiful day.